I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And typically when I begin my monologues, I'm always excited to share the fact that I get to hang out with some really cool people. And every time I think it's the coolest people on the planet. But actually today, they are the coolest people on the planet. And why? It's because the kind of work that they do, the kind of commitment that they have, and quite frankly, it's an inspiration for all of us to have this kind of commitment. And with the work that I've been doing over the years, I mean, I trained for 17 years, for God's sakes, in medicine before I actually opened my doors and put my shingle out and actually was able to go to the community and offer my services for real. And then 20 years of experience in the field and really recognizing that medicine fundamentally is flawed. Okay, beat me up for that one if you want to, but it is. And I'm understanding that because there are so many incredibly brilliant people that are really dissecting how it is that we offer medicine today, and to understand that in a way we got it wrong, because medicine has been based on Newtonian physics. And in Newtonian physics, all it is, it's about materialism, reductionism, and determinism. And so that was the science that we understood the world around us, but it's incomplete. And when Einstein came in with a theory of quantum physics, everything changed. And the truth is when we look at quantum physics, when we look at wave energy has about 100 times more effective on the particles in the human body than all the physical things. Think about that for a moment. You give somebody a drug, or you give a particle or substance or a chemical that affects a cell, it's 1/100th of what energy will influence that cell. And so as we go into the new paradigm, the new kind of thinking in our world today, with so many shifts and so many people really want to adopt and implement this new kind of science, quantum physics, it's been around for a while, is how it actually affects the human body. Now, for many, it's really scary. For many, there's so much uncertainty. Unfortunately, a lot of people make a lot of false claims. And so we've got to be really mindful as to how it is that we put this in context very carefully, very gently, with the right kind of people. Like today, we can figure out what's the path to the future, how to combine what we've learned through Newtonian physics with quantum physics so that we can optimally heal our body. Now, I'm a physician, so I'm allowed to say that. But in truth, what happens as health providers or healers, we're actually only participating in the healing process that the person needs to take responsibility themselves. So let me say that one more time. It's all about creating the environment around the body with the support of people like Dr. Chevalier and myself and all the other people as well, taking Kim and David Benhoff as well, as to how we create the environment so that we optimize our own well-being. So I really want to welcome 3 remarkable people who are going to be sharing their stories, their insights, not making any claims, but their experiences and their beliefs that potentially can help you find newer solutions that may or may not work. Let me be clear on that. That may or may not work. There's so many parts to this, but I can only allude to the stories that they have shared with me to tell you that there's so much vital information that you're going to get out of this, so that you can make some decisions for yourself. Because I know after the very short talk that I've had with them today, that I'm making some new decisions. Dr. Chevalier, Ken, and David Benhoff, thank you so much. And just by way of introduction, Dr. Chevalier, originating from France, double PhDs, which is really cool. I just have an MD. Kim, unique perspective on autism, personal experience. And once again, David Benhoff, a Marine, always a Marine, really thanking you for your service. Really excited about what you guys will be sharing with us today, particularly on 2 levels. One, all these different conditions that people are being afflicted by, and in particular, a very special and unique group of people in our country that really deserve a lot more attention, and those are our vets. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So Dr. Chevalier, let's start off with you, and however you want to talk, whether it's the nonprofit organization that you're dealing with, that you're part of, and plugging into other situations, for our vets, or do you want to start talking about? Let's start off with that. Let's start off the idea of what you're doing for our vets today.
So we got an award. We actually got a bronze medal award from the Sons of American Revolution, a society that recognize outstanding citizens who are doing nonprofit work. And the bronze medal was awarded for treating successfully more than 100 suicidal, PTSD, drug addict, chronic pain, concussion veterans. Um, from that work, we want to expand this and go to the next level. So that's the partnership with retired Lieutenant Colonel Marine David Banoff here, who's going to share the story. If you can imagine, it's a national crisis. We lose our brothers and sisters in uniform and an alarming rate. Right now, the rate is 22 to 24 veterans a day are taking their lives. It's beyond unacceptable. We offer a solution that is functional medicine. It's safe. There is no side effects, no medicine, no surgery. And it's literally taking them out of the street and out of mental illness and physical illness and bring them back into being productive members of society. So that's very exciting. That's really our top priority. The second priority is autism. And Kim is going to be here to talk about this. And then we can talk about other things as well. But the solutions we offer are really safe and it's making a difference in people's lives in a very profound way. And it stays permanently. And it's only one session.
And so we're clear in putting it all in context. And forgive me, David, if I don't position it correctly, but as a non-military person, I can only imagine how intense. I mean, I can't even imagine how intense some of these battle situations, and these are just so unnatural for us. And as regular people, non-military people, we just have no concept of the injuries that the men and women in uniform actually suffer, and particularly the mental one. I mean, it's the horrific situations, the death situations, loss of limb situations or other body parts. I mean, it's just awful, awful, awful. And just to completely deny its importance in all of the vets is just not good. Let's just put it that way. And so again, for all the listeners listening, however you view our military, our men and women in uniform, they have protected our liberties and freedoms, and we are able to enjoy the things that many other countries cannot, simply because we've got these men and women in military. And so they have suffered tremendously. And so I applaud the work of all three of you in helping these young men and women, get back and live their own lives. So Kim, go ahead, David.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, please. I was going to go on a different tactic, but can you add on to that?
I was just going to say, I think what you keyed in on there, and I think doesn't get maybe enough thought from the public and the healthcare side of the house, is the mental health aspect. And that's one thing that Antoine is really focusing on, and the PTSD and the moral injury. Just as we were talking earlier, these wars have been going on, and they're now somewhat winding down, or quite a bit. But over a decade, with these young troops going and deploying time after time with hardly any break in between, and working under rules of engagement that are ever changing, and putting it you can't imagine the stress. And I'm speaking about my fellow Marines, not myself. My tours overseas were fairly tame compared to a lot. But I remember talking to some young Marines and telling me about how their vehicle had been attacked. And one of them had yelled out, "Can I shoot?" just before he was killed. So just the mental strain on these young 18, 19, 20-year-olds is just really hard to comprehend. And I won't belabor it, but Antoine can talk more about that. I'm just so glad to be trying to help him kind of get his services out there to these folks, because they suffer in silence a lot of times and needlessly. So thank you.
And we take a lot of that for granted. I mean, a lot of people are playing these video games that are, quite brutal, but there's no real, attachment to that. And now here's somebody who is wondering, well, am I going to get in trouble if I pull the trigger right now? And then he gets in trouble by, getting killed. And we very much take that for granted, and that's just not right. And as a non-military person, I've got no right to tell you how to do your job. Just quite frankly, like non-medical people can't tell me how to do my job. You were about to share a story, David, earlier on, about someone that you had experienced and who went through the treatment and what that was like. And why don't you go ahead and share that story with us now if you feel it's appropriate?
Sure, absolutely. And that was kind of my first. I had met Antoine. We had connected in our work with veterans, and had actually gotten together and met in person. And then shortly thereafter, probably within a couple of weeks, I got a call, and he was heading down to Portsmouth Naval Hospital in southeastern Virginia. There was a sailor down there he had treated 3 weeks prior. Young kid, had some serious mental health issues and had attempted suicide about 10 months prior. And for the last, well, until Antoine came into the picture about 3 weeks before our trip down there, he had been sedated and pretty much snowed on pharmaceuticals in a virtual catatonic state from what I had heard, so much so that he didn't even recognize his own mother. Antoine had gone down there 3 weeks prior and treated him. And when we got down there, when I rode with him for the follow-up, we met this young sailor out in town with his mom at a local Starbucks. And I was just stunned because I knew the background, and you would never have known it because he was articulate. He was in a great mood. His mom was just ecstatic, obviously. He had great affect, and it was incomprehensible that just 3 weeks prior, he'd been almost to the point where they had him restrained within this ward of the hospital. So that was a real eye opener for me, that what Antoine's treatments could do. And I've just seen more and more of what is capable there. I had, and I won't prattle on too much more, but
Okay.
When I had heard about what he was doing, I was very suspicious, and I did my own vetting online, and I found an article where he was talking about the quantum physics that you led with, and then when we met up, we realized we had read a lot of the masters of the early Christian church, and anyway, everything just kept lining up. I'm like, this guy's the real deal, and I've seen it now, several times, and what he's doing is remarkable, and that's an understatement, I think. And just what he's able to do for these veterans that just aren't getting what they need, I just can't it's just priceless.
No, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate putting Dr. Chevalier's practice in context. And one credential, if you will, that I think is very important for all the listeners to know is that Dr. Chevalier also has an appointment with the White House for the last 20 years. So he is quite a significant person that's been very influential, with our government people and others. So there's a lot of legitimacy into what he talks about. Well, before we go into the background as to what all of this really entails and tapping into ancient wisdoms, Aborigines, and all this, I'd like to just invite Kim for a second, just to put into perspective what she feels is really unique about the work that's being done in autism, because I think this is really relevant. Because once again, one of my let's say challenges with the current system, and what it is that I'm actually working to create a shift, if you will, is how as medical professionals we try to focus on the smallest components that we believe that we can control. That's Newtonian physics. That's if we can get to the subatomic particle and we can affect that physically, then that's going to be the answer of everything. But it's not. And medicine is based on that. And so, unfortunately, what's happening in today's world, and this is part of a training program that I'm actually putting together to help doctors pivot and have a different perspective of what will really make a difference for them, is understanding that we actually need to look at the whole environment, the entire field that is affecting every single individual. And this is more than just being holistic. It's in the entire field that we live in and how that affects our health and well-being, and be the ultimate educators of patients so they can tap into a higher sense of well-being, incorporating actually whatever works. It doesn't matter where it comes from, what's the basis, as long as it works. And this was a decision I made for, in medical school, when I recognized that there's such a disconnect between what was called alternative medicine. I don't even use that word. It's just different modalities and allopathic medicine. And I just decided, look, I'll do whatever it takes. If I need to stand on my head to get rid of my headache, then let's go ahead and do that, because that's what matters. And so what Kim is doing is recognizing, well, what's happening in the world of autism, and she's going to share her own experience, is it's being isolated to the child. Well, that's missing out the most important part of that child's existence. Kim, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, you totally nailed it. I mean, not only are the majority of services like completely focused on the child, and for good reason, they kind of silo treatment just to the child. So what Dr. Chevalier does is, takes the entire dynamic of the family, the mother, the father, and the child. And that is entirely unique. And the other thing is, you touched on it too, is that his solution isn't entirely customized to that dynamic, to that family. So what you get a lot of today in the autism world is you get on these tracks, these single protocol tracks, and you can't treat many different people, a spectrum of people, with the same exact protocol and expect it to work for every single person. So for me, I had a major ear prick up moment with Dr. Chevalier when he was talking about the work that he had done with veterans and the PTSD, the misunderstanding of what those, what those military personnel go through. And it translated, perfectly into the autism world, in the sense that it's so misunderstood and it's so siloed, and it feels like sometimes you're just throwing darts at a missing target. And he really offers kind of like a holistic, an entire approach to it. So yeah, that's really what drew me and my family to him.
And you know this because you have a child, right?
I have a child, 6.5-year-old son, who has experienced a variety of medical issues since he was about 3 months old. And we've dealt with many professionals, both, alternative, complementary, and traditional. And we've been through a cycle of, hope, action, frustration, fear, worries, more hope. And it takes a toll on not only the child, but the entire family. Everything from like marital issues, financial issues. I have 2 other kids, his siblings are stressed, and it affects everybody. It affects not only the immediate family, everyone else in our extended family, the society as a whole. And it's just, the ripple effect is really immeasurable. So
and it's unfortunate, I would say this, and I can easily say this because I'm a doctor, I've experienced it. My practice has been very different than my colleagues. And so far as, I'm actually looking at the whole picture. I've always looked at the whole picture and looked at really more about, how is my patient actually responding to all of this, and helping them, put everything into context, rather than shooting them with all sorts of things, do this, do that, do this, and then I'm off to the next patient. And fortunately, I've been in a profession that allowed me to do that, and there was a higher sense of necessity to do that. But I think a lot of docs and let's be fair to all the docs out there. They're doing the best that they can. They're doing the best they can with the academic education that they've received over time. Unfortunately, in my opinion, it's only part of the solution. And we need to think bigger. We need to think outside of the box. And we really need to understand how patients actually make their decisions so that they can come to a place that's relatively stress-free and develop health and wellness, not just for themselves, but everybody around them. So I think your point is really well taken, Kim, and I appreciate what you're saying. And we'll get back to you in a little bit. I think I'd like to hear from Dr. Chevalier is that we've developed over millennia, whatever you believe about our existence, that's entirely up to you. But certainly the intelligence of humanity has developed over millennia. And so clearly, until about 200-300 years ago, we weren't really tapped into the Newtonian science. So before then, somehow, somewhere, we developed as humans an intelligence to deal with, say, imbalances in the body. That's how I like to put it, imbalances in the body. And that clearly had benefits one way or another. And so I'd like to hear from Dr. Chevalier a little bit of the background as to what he learned over the years, what he's tapped into, what he's plugged into, that's allowed him to create what he does today. So for some people, this might be like weird and okay, but the fact of the matter is, it's the path that Dr. Chevalier took to get here today that's delivering the results that he gets.
So I was born in a funeral home. And I grew up cleaning up dead bodies after school. I had a traumatic childhood experience. I was raped when I was 5. At age 12, my dad woke me up in the middle of the night and he needed my help to deal with a dead body, someone who just hanged himself in the middle of the night. So at that, I remember being suicidal when I was 5, because of the traumatic experience I had at the time. And when I saw what suicide is, I didn't want to commit suicide. I became very determined to find a solution to suicide. So at age 12, my determination was set that, okay, I want to commit suicide. This is what suicide looks like. I'm not going to do it. I need to find a solution to this. So starting at that moment, everything started to gravitate around that. And I put myself through the educational system to go through a PhD in international development that would guarantee me to travel all over the world, because I knew intuitively that the solution to suicide is not in Western medicine. It's not. We don't have it. So the PhD in international development had a minor, and the minor was anthropology. And that way I could go and study how traditional culture heal, right? So if you want, the international development was the front for the real intention, which was learning how other culture heal. So I ended up in Africa. My first, my first job was in French Guiana and north of Brazil, and I met with the Indian there and the shamans and all that. So I had an experience there. Then I came back and I did the PhD in Zimbabwe, close to South Africa. And of course, I had experience there too. Then I went to Mozambique, Senegal. I went to Chiang Mai, Thailand. I was a Buddhist monk for 5 months. Then I learned about Taoism. And I was using myself as a testing ground. So whatever works, I take it. If it doesn't work, I reject it. I was a very scientific approach to basically metaphysical knowledge. If it's helping me, you know what, fine. I mean, I was the perfect candidate. I had lots of PTSD, major depression disorder, suicidal, chronic pain. I had it all, concussion, the whole thing. So from there, then it took me to other part of the world, in Costa Rica and Hawaii, the US, Canada, Japan, and Australia. So along the journey, the big difference was really the Aborigines from Australia. So to give you a perspective, um, because I did study Hinduism. Hinduism is 9,000 years old. Yoga is 9,000 years old. Taoism is 9,000 years old. Acupuncture is 9,000 years old, which I use. I use electrical acupuncture with no needles as part of the protocol. Buddhism is 5,000 years old. Judaism is 4,000 years old. Christianity is 2,000. Islam is less than 2,000. And the Aborigines is 60,000 years of wisdom. And when I connected with, I was ready. And then we started talking, and then the bridge was quantum physics, because they totally understood our quantum physics. And for them, it's like, 7-year-old. Our quantum physics is not even 5% of what they know. Okay. So I had a lot of catch up to do, and it's very no nonsense. Okay. And it's test, always testing to see if you really get it or not. There's no room for nonsense. Okay. That's really very straightforward. And I was very, very determined. And sure enough, they just get rid of it. The PTSD was gone, major depression disorder was gone, the suicidal ideation was gone, chronic pain, everything I've been struggling since age 5 was gone. And of course, cognitive dissonance, it was hard to believe, because this was my reality for most of my life. Right. Somehow this is gone. And took me time to really realize that this is gone for good. And I was my mind was blown away. So blown away. I finally got the key, right? So I said, I really want to learn this, because I really want to help. And they knew my intention was so strong, and it was really pure. So they actually taught me. And then from then, and they also told me that I will find my own keys. Basically, you're gonna listen. You listen, cultivate the skill to listen, which is really the most important skill, is the ability to listen to inside, the wisdom inside of you. Mm-hmm. And they said that you're gonna be on your own. You don't need us. You're gonna be on your own. You're gonna get your own keys. And sure enough, they were right. And now the modality is evolving, and it's research based. And in the case with Kim, for example, that child, her son, was severely autistic. It's no longer the case. I mean, we're talking, and you'll talk about it, but we're talking a severely quote unquote autistic child for 5 years, and now he's playing soccer, okay, and dribble, and he just played baseball, and he was hitting the ball. I mean. So the change within the family is huge. The financial strain is down. It's saving $3,000 a month. They don't have to spend on other stuff. The relationship with the husband and wife is much better. It's a total change, total shift, and it's there to stay. It doesn't come back.
That's remarkable. That's absolutely
there to stay. Okay, this is the big one. It's there to stay, and it was one session. Okay. And with my dear brother there, David, he was free to talk about it, but it was chronic pain for 17 years, head injury, Marine for, I don't know, 17 years or more. And then the pounding on the disc, the spine, the mind, it's hard to understand, right? Like you said, but so, Dave now can run and walk, no pain, and he's free. And that was a year ago now. We did the session maybe a year and a half ago. It's there. It didn't come back. It's gone. Okay. So deep. It's a real transformation. It's a genuine transformation. And the kid is, yes, I have PhDs and I can put the doctor, but I'm not a doctor. Okay. I'm not a healer. Okay. I'm assisting. So I'm assisting these individuals to heal themselves with integrity. And that's the only reason why it stays.
Well, let me just say this and put it in context, because some people think, okay, that's not possible, and this is all this kind of stuff. And And here's this. I mean, let's give it the perfect analogy. It's sort of like you need to get into your house, because that's where it's safe. That home is where the heart is, where it's secure and everything else. But the door is locked. You're blindfolded, and you have a whole bunch of keys. And so all it takes, in the healing process, is finding the right key in the keyhole so you can open the door and get inside. And that's what it is. There's nothing about miracles about this. It's just understanding how my body works, how energetically it works, and therefore, being able to tap into it. And let me again put it into some context so people understand this. It is all about energy as well. And when we look biologically at our cells, I mean, our cells have impulses, our brain has impulses, nerve impulses, and the EEG, electroencephalogram, is something that actually measures something that can be physically measured, which is the electricity in our head. And so that's how we can determine how our brain is kind of functioning, with all sorts of correlations they've made scientifically over the years. But you also have a magnetoencephalogram. And what that does is nothing attached to the scalp or your head, but it measures the energy around the head. Our thoughts are emitting energy. Our body emits energy. And so it's about tapping into that energy. It's a frequency, it's adjusting the frequencies, because it's those frequencies, that energies, it's the field that has 100 times more impact than the physicalness of us. So essentially what you're doing with the work that you're doing, this is why it's so significant, is and if you're and let's go back to Einstein, and I think we can kind of trust what he had to say, right? But Einstein says it's the field that affects the particle. That's the work that you do. There's nothing crazy about it. There's no voodoo about it. This is real. The thing is, we haven't figured out how to measure it quite yet. So
we actually we're doing a scientific research, and the goal is to have 100 and hopefully 300, if we have, we can get the funds, we can get 300 homeless, suicidal, PTSD, drug addict veterans, and we scan their brain with functional MRI before the session. We do the session, we scan their brain right after the session, and we scan their brain again 3 months after. And what you will observe is an increase in neuroplasticity and connectivity in the brain by more than 70%, which has already been done in Japan on 33 cases of these people had severe traumatic brain injury, and they were depressed and they were addicted to drugs. And the doctors then, they had no solution for that. They threw at me their worst case, and they had the functional MRI in the clinic at the time. And we did it. We have 96 functional MRI to prove that what I do is actually increasing functional neuroplasticity and connectivity in the brain. For a functional MRI, you cannot dispute that. You cannot go against, it's the gold standard, okay? So the Japanese, before COVID, I was scheduled to do a clinical trial in Japan, March 2020. That's how serious they jumped on it. And they already said that this work, we will submit this work to the Nobel Peace Prize in Medicine, because I don't know if you know the Japanese, but they have a lot of pride of being the best in everything, right? So the fact that they had this foreigner who actually had something they don't have was really puzzling for them. And so we had a really good laugh about this, but basically they cannot reverse engineer what I do, because you have to be genuine about it. You can't reverse engineer. So this really scratching their head, they just can't figure it out. But the results are there, okay? And so now, of course, the goal is to do it here in the US with our veterans, and get them out of the street, get them out of suicidal ideation, get them out of mental anguish, get them out of chronic pain and all that, and have that study being published here in the US, because it's measurable, actually.
I love this. I get goosebumps just thinking about it, because it's remarkable. And just on my podcast series, I've said this often enough, and this is in alignment with what you said earlier. And is my vision, I've had this for 20 years, my vision of the future doctor is he won't be prescribing drugs and not performing surgery. I mean, there's an intelligence out there that we just haven't tapped into. And with the wellness revolution well underway, doing some remarkable things for us and all these biohackers coming up. And then with the regenerative medicine revolution, really getting started with some pretty amazing, strategies to address the root cause. And then ultimately what I see is the next revolution, and you're one of those pioneers, is what I call the bioenergy revolution. And I don't mean just digital systems, I mean human energy systems, HES. So that's super exciting. So let's tap into, we only have about 20 minutes left, and I want to, give Kim and David also a chance to talk, but let's go to the how. What is it that you're actually doing? And give us a context of, what's that process, the how, the what, share with the listener how they can wrap their head about the work that you do.
Sure. So to give an example with David, for example, I went into his house and I just said, I have a machine, and the machine is basically can scan you. It will scan your energy field, and it's gonna give me digital homeopathic frequencies that are there to balance you out, to bring you back into balance with homeopathic principles. So I usually use this machine as for assessment, and then I'll know where the patterns are. Once I see the patterns, then I can customize the session. And when I customize the session, I usually use after that electrical acupuncture without needles, which is two little machine, and I stimulate acupuncture points, trigger points, motor points, tender points. It re-regulates the autonomic nervous system, peripheral nervous system, central nervous system. And then after that, we go to the advanced cognitive behavioral therapy. That's quantum physics, the mind and the spirit of a human. So you get the spirit, the mind, and the body, everything is covered. Now, the session, when I say one session, it may last maybe some cases, it's 3-4 hours, but it can go all the way to 32 hours, depending on the case. Soon, like for example, I have someone flying from England who's going to come here for treatment from ALS. ALS, sclerosis is basically, there's only 24,000 people in the world, and I've done it successfully twice. And the guy is flying here and he's going to be treated. That one's going to take me more than 2 weeks of treatment. Okay, so it really depends on the case. It's case by case, and I really customize. That's very important. And then for Vin, Kim's son, I could not touch him. I could not talk to him. I couldn't do a thing because he's severely autistic. So I could use my machine, and then through the mother and the father, I can work on the child metaphysically. And that's the advanced cognitive behavioral therapy. And that worked. Basically reversed what it did. It reversed the conditions. And now, progressively, the child is integrating and is back to normal.
So again, let me put this in context and ask you a question about the advanced cognitive therapy. And so when we look at any solid object or any object, there's essentially an energy field around it. And we all know that we have an energy field around us. And it's sort of like, just look at it as a fancy onion in the shape of a human being. You got all these layers. And so you have these energy lines, or these fields, if you will. And you can look it up online, by the way, anybody who's listening, the energy field on the body. And there's all these different nexus points. And what happens is that if these nexus points aren't at the right place, it's going to affect the internal field in a particular area of the body. And so in simplistic terms, and don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert or specialist at this, I can only imagine if there's the wrong energy into a particular organ, you're going to have a problem with that. So essentially what the work that Dr. Chevalier does, and forgive me if I'm giving the wrong impression, I'm happy to be corrected and I'm happy to learn, is simply that you're adjusting the fields around the body in such a way that healing can happen. Would that be right?
So yes, except I don't have the authority to do it for you.
Right.
If you come, I can assist you, but the force that created you has the authority to repair you, to bring you back into balance. And for that, I can assist you to be more integrated with that force inside of you.
Yeah,
And
no, absolutely. And
that's the key. Yeah. Yeah. That's why it works. It's because I'm not the one doing it. I can assist you. And that's I need your intention. The only thing that works is basically I need your intention. It's your intention that you want to be free from dot dot dot. It could be a lot of different things. So we don't get trapped into the label. We don't get trapped into the medical condition, labeling and all that. It's more like a quantum approach where yes, we work on the energy field of the human being. However, I do not.
you don't actually do the work. Yeah.
No,
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 and yeah, and forgive me for not saying that
no,
actually
no, it's fine.
accurately, and which is great because now people can understand the
Mhm.
nuances of what healers do. And I've been fortunate, I've been trained in integrated energy healing, and we learn the same kind of language, is that we assist you, we guide you, and that is absolutely 100%. So no misguidance here for anyone that we're selling or he's selling miracle cures. And it's the buy-in of the patient, and that's a whole different topic that I would love to talk at some point. How our mind actually affects it. There's a great book by Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief. You probably met him. He's got a great book that I loved, and I've listened to 3 times already. The Wisdom of Ourselves, and
Yeah.
it helped me look at things very, very differently, and why I'm so passionate about sharing his work and obviously your work too. So, talking about the advanced cognitive therapy, what is that?
So you stay fully dressed. You lie down on face up, whether on the massage table, on the couch, on the bed. You're just lying down. I will look at you and I'm going to ask you questions. Then you're going to close your eyes and I will be basically asking you a series of questions. And based on your answer, it's going to trigger another series of questions based on you. I like a tree. And it goes down, 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 down. And then we go to the root cause. As you know, the world is invisible first and visible after. So we go into the invisible root cause and we get the answer from the life force of the patient, who is supposed to show the patient and me where it's coming from. And then I'm able to then assist those two to be more integrated with acknowledging the authority of the life force within the patient to heal the patient according to that life force, according to its knowledge and power and authority. And that way then things, quantum physics, those collapse. It's like subparticles where those, in the invisible world, those times of dimensions that are responsible for the physical manifestation of the unbalance situation that the patient wants to be free from, we're able, the life force of a person is supposed to collapse this. And when there is the collapse, then it leads to freedom. And that's valid for any form of imbalance within the human life or the human experience.
So let's go ahead and put that in context for everyone else if you didn't understand what Dr. Chevalier just said, and which was also hard for me to follow, to be honest. The thing is that when you're born, you pretty much have to learn a whole new language, symbols, everything, a lot of stuff. And you're still learning, particularly until about the age 5 or 6 when everything actually then shifts. But I won't go into that particularly. So when you think about it, you're a child, you're a baby, and you're learning all these things. But you're learning based on what you just learned a moment ago. And so your reference points are really quite limited to begin with. In fact, they're 0 to begin with. And we can get even deeper in that with our DNA and all that kind of stuff. But that's too complicated. But to keep it simple, you're a learning machine on new things. Now, what happens to us is that with our immature brains, then we make these decisions, we create these beliefs, we create these values that may actually not serve us in the best possible way. And then as we grow up, we reinforce them, society reinforces them, religion reinforces them, culture, whatever that is. And so you reach a point at some point where now, based on all those beliefs and values and memories and decisions you made, is affecting your life, your behavior, your thoughts in this moment. And that's essentially based on the experiences that you get that then causes things like PTSD, depression, all that. And so essentially the work that he's doing is helping you go back to those times where you actually made those decisions when you were like 3 months old and you can't even remember them, and find a way tapping into your life force to make the shifts and come up with better decisions in your life today. And all of this is in the unconscious mind, by the way. There's no voodoo about this either. It's real stuff, proven scientifically. And so then you get to process the stuff in a way that, in truth, all we all want ultimately is divine happiness and wholeness. That's what we're looking for. And this is that pathway, and it's assisting you come in. And quite frankly, I do that more consciously in a coaching. In all my coaching, I mean, I've got clients all over the planet that, and it's a different process that I do. It's more in the consciousness, if you will, but it's kind of doing the same thing. It's helping you develop new reference points of a reality that's real for you, that serves you, so that you can have the freedom to let go of the bad thoughts and decisions and beliefs that aren't supporting you. Would that be a nice way to sum it up?
Yes, definitely. And what I would just add is that, and what creates reality, there are certain laws, and then rules and laws, and that knowledge is what really makes the difference. Because before that knowledge, I've really tried so many different stuff under the sun, so many different modalities, which if it's right for you, great. But it was not really providing me the freedom that I really wanted, the good, true, genuine freedom from PTSD or whatever you name it. And so the difference was that knowledge. It's just a very specific knowledge, and it can be related to quantum physics, but it goes way beyond that. I mean, really beyond. And when you basically truly integrate those laws and that knowledge, then you're able to be very precise, and then you basically get the job done, right? And then it's really no nonsense. But you just have to integrate that kind of knowledge, and you see how it's universal. Really, if you look at like in different culture, you see the patterns. After a while, you've tried this culture, this, and you see there is a pattern. There's real pattern there. And then, of course, the Aborigines were just off the chart, totally ahead of us.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
need to look into that.
Yeah.
So I know we're slowly run out of time, and I just want, and I love you sharing so much, but I want to give it a minute or two to Kim, and then David, anything else you want to share, and just start wrapping up. Kim, what else would you like the people to know about this work and your experience?
Yeah, I would just add that it's genuine, it's real, and it is life-changing. The attention, the level of detail that Dr. Chevalier gave my son, our family, has been unmatched. And I'm very grateful. I see my son unfolding every day with new skills. And, from a mother's heart, you can't ask for anything more. You said it, we want, health and happiness. And we found that. So I am just 100% grateful, and thank you for this platform. And, my goal is to help other families access his method and find the freedom that my family has found.
Well, let's definitely share this podcast and video and to as many people as possible, just to help educate them to the level that there are different choices out there. It's not for everyone, obviously. It's not always going to work, well, except for I'm hearing that with enough focus and attention, it does work in one session. But it's participation. It's a process where you're actually doing the work, you're assisting, you're the guide, and that's a lot of the work that I do too. right? And I think that's really important. This is why I think your work is so magnificent and certainly a beacon for the rest of us, and particularly work that I'm doing to help doctors see things differently, because they're warriors and heroes out there wanting to save people's lives. Sometimes their hands are tied back and they don't even know it. David, I really appreciate, what you've done for our country, and I want to give you the last word as far as what the rest of us need to be doing to take care of the vets. You're on mute there, David.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm still a grease pencil kind of guy in a digital age here. I would like to echo what Kim said. I think it's important that people know just Antoine is the real deal. He is genuine, and I don't think I've met anybody with as much integrity as him. And just as she said, my goal being part of this was to help to educate. And that's kind of, I think, how to help the vets out there is to help educate them. I could spend an hour talking about the difficulties getting VA benefits and things of that nature. But just getting the word spread about Antoine and what he can do. And, if there's an opportunity for somebody's listening today that could help fund his efforts, because I know I'm not being compensated. Kim's not, and we never will be. We're here just because we've seen it and we want people to get helped. And I know Antoine he's lost money helping people. And so anything that can be done to help him in helping these veterans and these children with disabilities would be amazing.
We all deserve that divine happiness, that divine wellness that's all within us, the life force within us. And somewhere, somehow we got stuck in something. This whole podcast series, and I didn't introduce it this way today, but it is about tapping into the authentic genius. It's also about tapping into the brain and the body and energy intelligence, as I talk about. And it's really authentic conversations, real people, real conversations, and real success. And the original reason for this platform was to share the authenticity of the words that I'm hearing today from all three of you, because as human beings, we dial in very quickly if something's really authentic or not. And it's all here, at 100%. And so that's why I appreciate, both you, Kim and Dave, being here. And Dr. Chevalier, I'd like to give you the last word for today.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having us. And it's just an honor for me to be in the position of assisting, like David Bonoff and our veterans who are sacrificing their lives for freedom. Okay, so that to me is really, the priority. And of course, our beautiful children, which is the future. Okay, our kids are the future. So autism is such also a national issue. It's a national crisis. I mean, it's ramping at so many kids, and we would love to expand this, of course, and offer a real solution to families who are suffering greatly from this condition. So we just want the word to be spread out, and the more people we assist to be free from, the better. Thank you.
No, and thank you for that. And I feel totally, blessed and humbled, being here with the three of you today, hearing what you're doing. It goes straight to my heart. It's been my philosophy over years, how you've approached things. I'm super jealous that you've traveled all over the world to find all this. I wish I'd known you before and gone with you. But there's many journeys in the future that we definitely can do together, because there is an intelligence around this. And that's why I talk about tapping into the collective wisdom and creating the space for general collaboration. And it's this kind of work that we can really tap into to make a difference. There's so many naysayers out there, and I respect, the position. It's out of fear. It's out of lack of understanding, knowledge. It's not willing to take the risk and being protective and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But with integrity of someone like Dr. Chevalier, who is working at the White House, for God's sakes, he's got 2 PhDs, he's traveled the world, and just listening to him, you realize this is, like David's saying, the real deal. And so I encourage people to find you. How do people find you, Dr. Chevalier?
Oh, www.heal.llc. And then the other one we have with Kim is www.spectrumsetfree.com. And for the veterans, we have www.thewaronsuicide.com.
Dr. Chevalier, Kim, David, thank you so much for all the incredible work that you do. And it's all about attaining our own freedoms. And whatever that looks like, however we can get there, this is the kind of stuff to focus, giving the freedom for our vets, the freedom for our autistic child, the freedom from pain, and just living a life that is blessed. I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. Again, as I said, tapping into our authentic genius and really tapping into our body intelligence, our brain intelligence, as well as our energy intelligence. I'll be back next week with more, but I want to thank you again for listening.
Thank you, Bart.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademacher's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.